2. You guys get extra credit for coming Shabbat on spring break. It's written in the Talmud. You don't have to fast on Yom Kippur. No. Is there basketball on or something? How's Alabama doing? The baseball's back. Glenn's very happy. Who's the favorite? The Dodgers? Are they really? Who's the real favorite? Dodgers? That's on the payroll. Just to get you guys ready, guess what happens after Friday night of Seder, second night, Saturday night, which we hope all of you come. What happens the following Shabbat? Does anyone remember? It's the third annual Omer game. So you guys already get excited for the world's greatest trivia contest, the Omer game, okay? Don't get too excited, but let's go.
We begin our service on page 128. How good it is to be together. Hine Matov. Hine Matov umanayim shevetachim gam yachad. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevetachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevetachim gam yachad. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevetachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevetachim gam yachad.
We turn to page 124, 124 in our prayer book. We read together. We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured. A beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. We turn to the candlelight on page 120, and I want to say something very special. Bittersweet, but something special too. A couple weeks ago, we lost Sissy Held, but for her 70th birthday, it's these candlesticks that she donated to this temple. So her memory forever is a blessing, but with these candlesticks, her life is always lighting up this synagogue. 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav mitzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
For those who are able, we rise together for our Kiddush 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho me'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'asei v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh zeichel yitziat Mitzrayim kivanu bacharta beotanu kidashta mikol hamim b'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen and l'chaim.
127 at the top, and please join me. There are days we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand and wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act we care nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, and day of peace. We turn to page 130 with Psalm 95.
Neranen al Adonai, Nari נתחננה לאדוני, נריע לצור אישנו, נקדמה פניו בתודה, בזמירות נריע לו, כי אל גדול אדוני, ומלך גדול על כל אלוהים, אשר בידו מחקרי ארץ, בתועפות ערים לו. אשר לא הים והוא עשהו, ויבשת ידיו יצרו, כי הוא אלוהינו ואנחנו אמר איתו וצאן ידו. We turn to page 134 for Psalm 98. Excuse me, 135 for Psalm 99, Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. We turn to 138, the pinnacle of Kabbalat Shabbat, Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha tishmi'anu, el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nei el-chakim, mekor ha-bracha, בראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשם בתחילה. lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
For those who are able, we rise together to greet Shabbat HaMalkah.
boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uv'tzolat toch emunei am segula boi chalam lechandon likrat kala Erev Shabbat nekabela lechandon likrat kala Erev Shabbat nekabela.
The bottom of page 145. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We continue with our Chetzi Kaddish right there, 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבם בעלמא תברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי שמי רבא מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינסה ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשם בריחו לעילה מן כל מלאכתם ושירתם תושבחת ונחמתה תמירן מעלמם ואמרו amen.
We rise together, 146.
Yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yada dai dai dai, 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 yada dai dai dai.
Top of page 149. Praise you, Adonai, our God, for whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise you, Adonai, your God, for whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim, on the next page.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavtam, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadetam. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochmeinu ufkumeinu, nasiach mechukecha, ונשמח מדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נחגה יומם בלילה. מאהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We read together at the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land. The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Our song of freedom and redemption, or Michamocha 158.
kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osei pelem, Nora tehilot osei pele Adonai meloch leolam ba'ed. Shir achad malchutecha ra'u banecha bokei hayam livnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'eli anu be'amru, Ze'eli anu be'amru Adonai meloch leolam ba'ed. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da. Yai da 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 da.
161, we read together, "Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will." Or Hashkivenu 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Be'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Be'hamideinu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Be'hamideinu shomreinu
Middle of page 163. We are a people in whom the past endures, and in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. This Shamru, the top of page 162.
Shameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
The middle of page 165. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. For those who are able, we rise together for our tefillah 166.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Besrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayei Metim Atah Rav Lehoshia. Mashiv Ruach Umorit Hagashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei hametim. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
The top of page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue with Oritzei on the next page.
Amen. Oritzei Adonai Eloheinu Be'amcha Yisrael U'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel U'tehi l'ratzon Tamid avodat Yisrael Yisrael Amecha El Karov Lechol Kore'a V'nei Elafatecha Mechoneinu Shefoch Ruchacha Betechzena Eineinu Beshuvcha LeTzion Berachamim Baruch atah Adonai Hamachazir Shechinato
The top of page 179, and we read together. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make content reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praise are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace.
Amen. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Metov beinechem levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. We take a few moments for silent meditation. Yihul ratzon imre fi, Yihul ratzon imre fi, Mehegion libi lefanecha, Adonai tzuri vegoali. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Oseh shalom bimromav, Yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael me'imeru ve'imeru. Amen.
At this moment in our service, we think of those in our community, those who are in need of healing of body or spirit. We think of Linda Applebaum, Margaret Bell, Harold Seitlin, Deborah Chagua, Orit Cohen, Karen Edwards, Bruce Fleissig, Edward Goldberg, Jeffrey Goldman, Sandra Goldman, Miriam Goldstein, Josie Hatfield, Emily Held, Evelyn Held, Donald Himmel, Ralph Holtzman, Joan Jacobson, Corey Kessler, Jerry Lapidus, Rush Lishkoff, Zane Mondlik, Marlene Meyerson, Susan Schumann, Leslie Simon, Christy St. Charles, Dawn St. Charles, Brenda Weinstein, Carol Wright, and Edgar Zimmerman. For those with us this evening, if you're thinking of a loved one, a friend, someone who means so much to you, who's in need of healing of body or spirit, we invite you to share that name out loud as my eyes meet yours. For those names mentioned out loud and for those names that are still in our hearts, our Misha Berach, our prayer for healing, the middle of page 371.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
Where we are in our Torah portion from last week to this week, and here we are at Parshat Shemini, and for the most part, this is where we see the priestly influence in our sacred literature. But here in this Torah portion, we have the ordination of the priestly class. This is going to come from Aaron's line, as Aaron is the priest gadol. So in verse 10 from Parshat Shemini, this is what we learn. The sons of Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu each took his fire pan. They put a fire to them and placed incense upon it, and they brought it before Adonai, an alien fire that God had not commanded. A fire came forth before Adonai and consumed them, and they died before Adonai. Our rabbis tell us that just when the celebration of the inauguration of these priests reached its pinnacle, a sudden tragedy occurred. Again, these are Aaron's two eldest sons, men whom Moses would talk about as the most outstanding sons of Beit Yisrael. But what happened was that they performed an unauthorized service and lost their lives. And the Hebrew for this is the paranot, and it's the divine decree. So if we imagine the scene, once they offered this alien fire, they were zapped and they no longer appeared. Our great rabbis were troubled by this, and they try to come up with myriad of teachings as to why Nadav and Avihu got this horrible decree. By the simple meaning of the text, that's what we read in the Torah. They offered a foreign fire, something that they weren't permitted to do, and therefore the punishment, they got zapped. And this idea puzzled our rabbis. So in a great midrash written 1,800 years ago, the rabbis had to rationalize why God would come up with such a harsh penalty to kill Aaron's brightest sons, Nadav and Avihu. And this is what we learn from the midrash. That Nadav and Avihu, they were standing back from afar, and they saw their father Aaron and their uncle Moses, and they believed that they were old, somewhat senile, and they lost their way, and they believed it was their opportunity to lead Beit Yisrael, and they came up with this incredible plot that if they offered this fire offering, it would be their turn to serve as the big chief, two big chiefs, while Moses and Aaron, they were demoted, or as we like to say, engaged in forced retirement. And because they had this chutzpah, this raw nerve to try to usurp authority away from their father and from their uncle, God gave them the ultimate punishment, the paranot, the divine decree. Now, I think it's hard for us to theologically process this as we look at this Torah portion from its simplest meaning or from the midrash that tries to explain the poor behavior of Nadav and Avihu. But I think there's lessons to be made. I think when we look at their behavior based on the midrash, we can talk about character, we can talk about kindness, we can talk about leadership, what best represents the ideal model to follow in the Jewish people. And one thing is clear, Nadav and Avihu, they are not the best model to lead Beit Yisrael. But I think we wrestle with this in our lives. We look at those who lead by example. I'm not getting into politics, but those who live a good and moral life, who embody the kindness and empathy that we see. We want to see people who are proud of who they are. They lead by example. And I want to share with something special that I think this congregation may know something about. Full disclosure, I'm not a college basketball fan. Robert Berman is in attendance, and he wanted to make sure that the Michigan game was on last night, and I had no idea because we were teaching at our community high school, the Jewish high school. So full disclosure, for those who filled out their college brackets, I think most of them have already been destroyed based on what's going on. But when Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers were still in the tournament, he was asked about a question about making donations to support Ukraine, and this is what he told the press. I want to read Bruce Pearl's comments that he said to the press, and this is what I see as a rabbi. This is leading by example on behalf of the Jewish people. Here are Bruce Pearl, someone who's important to this congregation in the Holocaust Center. Here are his words. I sort of feel like this is a calling from above, as Bruce said. He said that the Jews just finished celebrating Purim, a festival commemorating how the Jewish Queen Esther convinced the king of Persia not to kill the Jewish people. Haman was a very close advisor to that king. He was advising the king that maybe it was time to get rid of all the Jews. Queen Esther's uncle was Mordecai, he said. My Hebrew name is Mordecai. I think my family gave me that name for this reason. Mordecai talked to Esther, the queen, and said, look, Esther, you might survive this for a little while, but you won't survive this. He's really going to kill all the Jewish people and your family. And they gave Esther the courage to try to see if she could turn the king's heart, and she did and saved the nation. You asked the question about Ukraine, he added. We say never again. I was born in 1960, 15 years after they opened the gates, and they saw 6 million Jews were murdered and 3 million more so. So if they're up for this charity for 3-pointers, I'm all in, I'm all in. Help the Ukrainian people survive that. And he concluded what's going on in Iran with the king of Persia now, he said, if we embody that government, give them all that money, sign a bad treaty, it's going to put the world in jeopardy, and I couldn't agree more, especially with the last point, as I will continue to speak out against the terrible nature of the Iranian deal. But back to Bruce Pearl's comment. I can't imagine what he was feeling after he lost in the second round. In full disclosure, when the Red Wings lost in the 2004 Stanley Cup Finals in the second round, they lost the Calgary Flames Game 6 in overtime. I was so upset that I told my mother I didn't want to walk during my college graduation, and she let me mourn for about 5 minutes. But I can't imagine the sadness that Coach Pearl had after such hopes for the season. But this is what we want to lead by. We want proud Jews to stand up there and say, I'm proud to be Jewish, I support the Jewish people, and I want us to endure. And this is the stuff that really makes me excited about and hope moving forward. Tonight we have another Shabbat Mivrachim, and this is the Shabbat before we start the new month, which is going to be Nisan. And in the month of Nisan, in 2 weeks in April, this is when we begin the retelling the story of our liberation from slavery. We have so much on our plate. Our personal human condition, whatever those could be, still hurt us. We're dealing with Ukraine. We have Iran and this terrible nuclear deal that is kind of going under the radar. We have Pew studies that indicate most of America is not engaging in religious life. And we also have spring break to escape from our modern realities. The story of Passover is about our liberation. It's about the gift to be free to believe in the God of Israel. It's not about being free, as in our American Constitution. It's about the freedom to worship the God of Israel freely without the fear of persecution. We will retell the story over and over again in weeks to come. But tonight, it's about being more than a Moses and more than an Aaron. As we welcome Nisan and celebrate the Passover, it's the words by Coach Pearl that mean more than any victory in an NCAA championship. I know everyone wants that ring, but his words spoke louder that night, more than any win. I don't think he realizes it quite yet, but it's the stuff like this that endures on forever. This is the stuff how we remember when proud Jews are proud to be Jewish, and they don't hold back. Shabbat Shalom. We turn to page 586, and we rise together for our Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. מה אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה רק כאשר הם Atzmam Avdu ve'enam, there are stars up above so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with the people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. On this Shabbat, we recall the yortzites of Tali Bar, Dorothy Beck, Clavdia Belia, Harvey S. Benjamin, Adolph J. Berger, Valley Berman, Alice Walzen Black, Elizabeth Liz Weidman Bleberg, Richard Bransdorf, Blanche Brash, Leona Roth R. Cherner, Louis Klein, Lucille Zeldin Cotton, Olga Dyer Smith, Gloria Alexander Etheridge, Michael David Fetter, Mimi Fyodor Lissy, Dave Fisher, Jonathan B. Friedman, Suzanne Gaines, Laura Beth Gill, Jane Klein Glick, Lawrence Goldman, Amelia Goldsmith, Pinya Gulger, Ruthie Gornek, Seymour S. Green, Jean Hartzell, Edwin J. Hiller, Jr., Sarah Friedman Clafter, Bertram Klein, Sidney Cronenberg, Robert Lewis, Beverly Marks, Elaine Markstein, Shannon Hope Cogan McInerney, Lauren Corman Moran, Sarah Newberger, Anna Eisenberg O'Dresen, Jerome H. Oppenheimer, Pearl H. Perling, Lena Phillips, Sylvia Rafflo, Hattie Reese, Thelma Renaud, Abe Rich, Ann Rosenberg, Emma Hellman Schoen, Benjamin Schultz, Morris Slive, Max Sokol, Harry Meyer Spiegelman, Max Stern Jr., Henry J. Swedlaw, Dorothy Thompson, and Samuel Ullman. Our heartfelt condolences in the recent passings of Dr. Charlie Brown, father of Ellen Stein, Larry Stephen Cohn, uncle of Danny Cohn, great uncle of Nora Cohn, and Sissy Held, wife of Leonard, mother of Jerry Held and Karen Allen, grandmother of Brian Held, Elisa Nelson, Lane Held, great-grandmother of Reed Nelson, Morgan Nelson, Alexa Nelson, and Jace Held. For those with us this evening, if you're remembering a yard site and you wish to share a name, we invite you to do so. We rise together as a united congregation for our Mortar's Kaddish 598. Yikadal v'ikadash shemei rabbah, v'yomad divrach rotei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayachon of yom echon, uv'chayet b'kol beit Yisrael, b'galah u'izman kariv v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach hitba'ar hitromam hitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitalev, Vitalav, Shmei Kutsha,
Barichu.
La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiram v'yoma v'yimru,
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, huya say shalom, aleinu v'yakol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ne'imeru, Amen.
Conclude with Ein Kelohenu. Just a few announcements. Tomorrow we have Torah study live in person at 9 a.m. here at Temple Emanu-El, and we'll still Zoom it. Please join us for our Shabbat hike, which I'll be leading at 10:30 tomorrow at Red Mountain. Okay. April 10th is Mitzvah Day, and then on April 16th, please join us for our second night Seder. You haven't experienced a second night Seder with Cantor Whitner and myself. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be Socratic, where I'm going to call on you. You're going to be, I'm just kidding. It's going to be a lot of fun. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Ein Kelohenu, ein Adonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, mich Eloheinu, mich Adonenu, mich Emalkeinu, mich Moshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, everybody.